Hey, welcome back to Stay Ahead. If your job involves the words vulnerability scan and you've never actually seen what's happening behind that scan, this video is for you. Today we're covering Qualys, one of the most widely used cloud-based platforms for finding, prioritizing, and fixing security weaknesses across an entire IT environment. Qualys Incorporated has been around since 1999, and its platform is used by a majority of the Forbes Global 100 and Fortune 100 companies. We're going to move through this the way you'd actually deploy it in a real company, getting assets visible, running your first scans, understanding scoring and prioritization, automating the fix, and layering in specialized modules. Every time we hit an acronym, I'll pause and explain it in plain English. This episode is brought to you by Audity.site, sponsor of the series. Let's get into it. Before Qualys can tell you anything about your security posture, it needs a way to actually see your assets. That visibility comes from the Qualys Cloud Platform, Qualys Central, cloud-hosted brain that all their modules plug into. There are three main ways data gets collected: the cloud agent, installed directly on a device for continuous reporting; the scanner appliance, which actively scans other machines across the network like a guard walking the halls; and passive sensors, which quietly listen to traffic to discover devices without an agent. Once data flows in, it populates asset inventory, Qualys living, continuously updated catalog of every device, cloud resource, and piece of software it can see. You cannot secure what you don't know exists. You'll also set up user roles and business units early on, so different teams only see and act on the assets relevant to them. Worked example: a mid-size retailer deploys the cloud agent to all 3,000 of their laptops and servers, and places 2 scanner appliances inside their data center for legacy systems that can't run an agent. Within a day, asset inventory shows a live, searchable map of the entire environment. Now that Qualys can see your assets, it's time to find the weaknesses. This is core vulnerability management, or VM, the oldest and most foundational part of the platform. You configure a scan by choosing target assets, a scan window, and whether it's authenticated or unauthenticated. Unauthenticated looks at a system from the outside, the way an attacker without credentials would. Authenticated logs in with credentials, inspecting much deeper: missing patches, misconfigurations, outdated versions. When Qualys finds an issue, it assigns a QID, Qualys' own reference number, for that check, similar in spirit to a CVE but Qualys' internal catalog identifier. Each finding also gets a CVSS score, a 0 to 10 industry standard severity scale. You'll also distinguish internal scanning, assets inside your network, from external scanning, the attack surface visible from the public internet. Worked example: a weekly authenticated scan of the finance department's servers turns up a missing security patch rated CVSS 8.6 on a database server, an actionable finding, not a vague alert. A single scan can return thousands of findings. If you fixed them in the order Qualys happened to list them, you'd never get to the ones that matter most. This is exactly the problem VMDR solves. VMDR stands for Vulnerability Management, Detection, and Response, Qualys' flagship, all-in-one module that tells you which findings to fix first and helps you actually fix them. Prioritization engine is True Risk. Instead of ranking purely by CVSS severity, it factors in real-world threat intelligence. Is this actively exploited right now, combined with how critical the asset is to your business? Detection also runs continuously. Cloud agents report changes in near real time, so a newly disclosed critical vulnerability can be flagged within hours, not at the next scheduled scan. Worked example: a scan returns 4,000 findings. True Risk narrows the truly urgent list down to 12 vulnerabilities that are high severity, actively exploited in the wild, and sit on business-critical assets. That's the list the team works from Monday morning. Finding and prioritizing a vulnerability is only half the job. Someone still has to fix it. That's Patch Management, a separately licensed add-on to core VMDR. Once True Risk tells you which vulnerability matters most, patch management automatically maps that finding to the actual vendor patch that resolves it, no manually cross-referencing release notes. You build automated patch jobs, which assets to target, which patches to apply, and a deployment schedule often tested first on a small pilot group before wider rollout. Once the patch deploys successfully, Qualys automatically rescans the affected assets and marks the vulnerability as remediated, no one manually updating a spreadsheet. Worked example, the CVSS 8.6 finance database finding gets mapped to the correct vendor update, deployed to a pilot server overnight, verified clean, then rolled out to the rest of the group. Qualys rescans and the finding disappears largely hands-off. A huge amount of real-world risk lives in custom web applications, login pages, customer portals, APIs. That's what web application scanning, or WAS, is built for. You register a web app as a scan target, and Qualys crawls it navigating pages, forms, and links to map its structure, looking for weaknesses instead of content to index. WAS hunts for application layer flaws a network scan would never catch. SQL injection, where malicious database commands are snuck through an input field, or cross-site scripting, where malicious code runs in another user's browser. You can also configure authenticated scanning here, giving the scanner valid credentials so it can test what's behind the login screen. Worked example, a retailer's checkout page is scanned weekly. WAS discovers a promo code field doesn't sanitize input, flagging a critical SQL injection vulnerability routed straight to the dev team's backlog with the exact page and parameter. Vulnerabilities are about missing patches and known flaws. Policy compliance, or PC, asks a different question: is this system actually configured securely in the first place? PC checks a system's configuration against a benchmark, most commonly a CIS benchmark, published by the Center for Internet Security, covering things like password complexity or disabling insecure protocols. You can also map configurations against regulatory frameworks like PCI DSS, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, so you know exactly which requirement a misconfiguration violates. The output is a pass or fail per control, per asset, rolled up into a compliance posture score. Worked example, a CIS benchmark scan against Windows servers finds 15 machines still allow an outdated authentication protocol. It's flagged, mapped to the relevant PCI DSS requirement, and routed to infrastructure caught internally, before an external auditor finds it first. Modern applications increasingly run in containers, lightweight, portable packages that bundle an app with everything it needs to run, and Qualys extends scanning directly into that world. Container security scans container images for known vulnerabilities before they're deployed, wired directly into a CI/CD pipeline, so a vulnerable image can be blocked before it ever ships to production. It also monitors containers already running, since new vulnerabilities get discovered in existing software all the time. Worked example, a CI/CD pipeline scans every image before deployment. One includes an outdated, vulnerable open source library. Qualys blocks it from promotion and notifies the developer with the exact component to update before it ever reaches a live environment. As more infrastructure moves to the cloud, misconfiguration, not just missing patches, has become one of the biggest sources of real breaches. That's what CSPM, Cloud Security Posture Management, is built to catch. You connect cloud accounts AWS, Azure, Google Cloud to Qualys, which continuously monitors configuration against best practices, exposed storage buckets, overly permissive access, unencrypted data. Cloud misconfigurations are usually invisible until someone finds them. There's no broken patch to notice, the system just quietly has a door left open. Worked example, CSPM flags a cloud storage bucket configured for public read access, containing internal backups. It's flagged critical, routed to the cloud infrastructure team, and fixed within hours. Every module feeds back into a unified reporting layer, the real payoff of running everything on one platform instead of 5 disconnected tools. The headline number most organizations track is the overall true risk score, a single trending metric summarizing risk posture over time, so leadership can see at a glance whether things are improving. Underneath that, you'll build dashboards for top risk assets, patch remediation SLA performance, compliance posture by framework, and open critical findings by business unit powered by live technical scan data. Before we wrap up, a question I get asked constantly in the comments: how does Qualys actually compare to Nessus? They both find vulnerabilities, so what's the real difference? Nessus, made by Tenable, is fundamentally a scanner, a self-managed, plugin-based engine you install and run yourself. It's licensed per scanner, roughly a few $1,000s a year for unlimited IP scanning from that one scanner, and its plugin library is updated daily, often within hours of a new CVE being disclosed. That makes it a favorite with penetration testers and lean security teams who want a fast, deep, portable scanning tool without committing to a full platform. Qualys, by contrast, is a cloud-native platform, not just a scanner. It's licensed per asset per year rather than per scanner, and that price covers continuous cloud agent monitoring, centralized asset inventory, and, as we covered earlier, true risk prioritization, plus native modules for web app scanning, policy compliance, container security, and CSPM, all under one roof. So the practical rule of thumb: reach for Nessus when you need a focused, easy to stand up scanning engine for a pentest engagement, a smaller environment, or a one-off assessment. Reach for Qualys when you're running an ongoing, enterprise-wide vulnerability management program and want asset discovery, scanning, prioritization, and remediation reporting to live in a single, continuously updated platform instead of several disconnected tools. So that's the full Qualys stack: platform setup, core vulnerability management, true risk-driven prioritization through VMDR, automated patching, WAS, policy compliance, container security, and CSPM. A few best practices: favor authenticated scanning wherever possible, let risk-based prioritization like True Risk guide what your team works on first, pilot every patch job on a small group before wide deployment, and treat asset inventory as a living source of truth, not a one-time setup task. If this helped you make sense of Qualys, hit subscribe. More Stay Ahead deep dives are coming, including a hands-on lab on writing your first automated scan policy. A big thank you to today's sponsor, Audity.site, for making this series possible. Drop your questions in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.